بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين
اللهم صل على محمد
لا سيما بقية الله في الأراضين أجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف وجعلنا من أعوانه وأنصاره اللهم أخرجني من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمني بنور الفهم اللهم افتح علينا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا خزائن علومك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. Inshallah, we are starting a new topic tonight, and that is about the criteria for the truth in propositions, in statements. مناط الصدق. What is the criterion for the truth? It starts with a human common experience that, as a child, when we grow, it takes us some time to realize that we do not directly and immediately understand the external realities. A child thinks that he or she is directly understanding his mother or her mother, and he thinks that my mother is known to me directly. It is only when we sometimes make mistakes and we realize that we made mistakes that we realize there was something between us and the reality. We were dealing with an image, a presentation of that reality, which was primarily known to us, as we have said many times. That is al-ma'lumu bil-dhat. Thank you very much. Ahsan. That is al-ma'lumu bil-dhat. And that al-ma'lumu bil-dhat, if corresponds to the external reality, then we have a true understanding. If it doesn't correspond, we are mistaken. When this distinction becomes clear, that is when we make mistakes. When we make mistakes and we realize that we had a kind of image that we have even when we have true understanding. But why this time it didn't work out? Although I had the same understanding, we realized that that understanding that I have in myself has to comply with something which is more fundamental, and that is the external reality. If this corresponds to that, this is true. If it doesn't correspond, then it's false. So for Muslim philosophers, for many other philosophers, almost you can say for all philosophers in the past, and for Muslim philosophers throughout the ages, they have had this idea about truth, that truth is a matter of correspondence of what is in our mind to the reality. But then they had to deal with some important questions. So after they developed this understanding of truth, they had to deal with some important questions. And these questions are so important that some Western philosophers have totally given up the idea of truth is correspondence. They have shifted to other theories about truth. For example, pragmatists, they say, forget what is corresponding to reality or doesn't correspond. They say whatever works, whatever is useful is true. Okay, so it's a matter of pragmatical benefit. Or some people have gone further and they said whatever is consistent, is free from contradiction, that's true. While we know that this is not enough, because there can be many things which have no contradiction, but not all of them is true. Anyway, they have had problems and they have totally given up, but Muslim philosophers have tried to articulate this theory so that they can explain different scenarios for correspondence. Okay? For example, to give you an idea about the questions, you know, sometimes we say, can I move here? Use the white. For example, sometimes we have what we call القضية الشخصية. القضية الشخصية. You can translate it as particular preposition. Although you can say personal, but here it doesn't need to be a human person. It's shakhsi in the sense of particular. It can be a human being, it can be a cat, it can be a particular animal or object. Now, for example, if we have a human being, when we say Zaydun qa'imun, Zayd is standing up. Okay? What is this sentence? We say this is qaziyya shakhsiyya. Why? Because it's about a particular reality. Okay? We are talking, we are describing a particular reality. This is the easiest type of proposition. If you want to see whether this is true or false, we look at outside, because Zayd is an external reality. And we look at outside, and if we see Zayd has this quality of standing, we say this is true. But if we see Zayd is sitting or sleeping, then we say it's false. So, this is very easy case. Sometimes we have al-qadiyya al-kharijiyya. External. But what do we mean? You know, it's very difficult to translate it literally. So it's better to, remember the original technical terms. Al-qadiyya al-kharijiyya is when we have a statement, a sentence about not necessarily a particular thing. For example, we say, of course, here there is a difference between Bu Ali Sina and Haji Sabzawari. And I think what Haji Sabzawari says might be better, although in the book says what Bu Ali says is better. But I think Haji Sabzawari's idea is better, and it's after Bu Ali. According to Haji Sabzawari, for example, we say, كل من في الصف طالب. Whoever is in this classroom is a student. Hopefully I'm also a student. Because you have to be always a student, you have to learn. So everyone in this room, in this classroom, is a student. Okay? So here we are not talking about one person. We are using kol, which is what we call sur, an indicator of the scope. Is it one or some or all? We say all. Everyone who is in the classroom is a student. So again, here you can go outside and check. Go to that classroom, if it is here, inside this classroom, you can go and check. We have القضية الحقيقية. Again, if you want, yes.
Sheikhna, was that according to Sabzawani?
Yes.
And what about Ibn Sina?
It becomes very similar to this. I will, inshallah, explain. So, al-qadiyatul haqiqiyya, if you want to translate it literally, means a true proposition, haqiqi. But it doesn't mean true. Maybe if you want to make it more accurate, say a proposition which is about a mahi, about a nature, about an essence. Yes.
So according to the second, then the statement which means not true, because in reality you are a teacher and the students in the class. So you're humble, saying that I'm a student as well.
If there is someone who is not a student, then of course this is false. But if everyone is a student, suppose for example, everyone is a student, or it is said when only students are here, they're studying, doing mubasa, whatever. For example, say everyone in this room is a Muslim. So then this is true. Al-Qadiyatul Haqiqiyya is not about a particular case, or it's not even about all cases that exist. You know, here it's not a particular case, but it's about all the cases that exist. Here it's very general, and any potential, any possible instance of that true, that reality can be included. For example, we say, كل نار حارة. Every fire is hot. When you say every fire is hot, it's not about one particular fire. It's not even about every type of fire today or now that exists in the world. It's not even about the fire in the past and present. Even if after some years there is a fire, has this quality. Or we say كل مثلث زوايا تساوي قائمتين. Any triangle that you can think of, its angles are equal to 180 degrees. It's any triangle, not a triangle today or yesterday or tomorrow or here or there, everywhere, anytime. This is al-qadiyatul haqiqiyya. Yes.
If the sentence doesn't have a misdaq in the real world, then how do we test the truth or falsehood? Because all of these, they all have a misdaq in the real world.
Yeah.
So that's how it using testing. But if they don't, if they only have a misdaq in, for example, in the mind.
So then this is where we talk about nafsul amr. So this is first we want to see the diversity of sentences. Then we would try to see what is the reality with which we have to check and see whether it corresponds or not. We have also al-qadiyatul dhihniyya. For example, when we say كل إنسان كلي, when we talk about a concept or al-insanu kulliyun, even kull is not needed.
Can we say it's a mental proposition?
Pardon?
Can we call it as mental proposition? Or conceptual?
Yeah, but again, literal translation may not help. You have to know the concept. Al-insanu kulliyun. The concept of human being is a universal concept. Okay, where is concept of human being? It's not like Zaid. It's not like everyone in the class. It's not even like every fire, because even this fire, something which comes outside. We are talking about external fire. But insan, the concept of human being, is always in the mind. And we say it's kulli. Okay? But this is different from mental image. Mental image has to correspond to the external world. You know, here also you have mental image of Zayd, and that is Zayd al-Zihni. But here, although it is Zihni, but it is also Khariji, because its Kharij is inside the Zihni. Its reality is inside. It's different from Zihni in contrast to Khariji. Is it clear? Many things in logic, in philosophy, in mathematics are Zihni, in the sense that you may never have them outside. For example, do you have a real circle outside? We can never have real circle outside. Any circle that we have outside is imperfect. Real circle cannot come outside. You have a question?
The first one and second one can be true and can be false.
Yes, all of them can be true and false.
How be false? The third one, قضية حقيقية.
So if someone says ليس كل نار بحارة, this is false. It becomes false.
In concept.
Yeah. So what we want to understand is, we know that this is true or false, but we want to analyze and explain how did we realize that this is true or false? With what reality, which reality we checked it? Because it's not that we are talking about a particular fire. We are talking about even some fires that have not yet come to the existence. And still we say, kullu narin harratun. So where is the reality with which this check is happening? So these are few types of proposition, plus there are some questions that have been raised in modern philosophy and have perplexed some philosophers. For example, about, as I said, about mathematics. They say in geometry and maybe in also other branches of mathematics, sometimes we deal with the concepts that do not exist in reality, like line, khat. We may not have line in reality because anything outside has some width. To have no width and just have continuity may not happen in the outside world. Or for example, circle may not be there in the real world. They said about the empirical statements we can understand, but what about mathematical statements? And therefore they have tried to come up with another theory, which is theory of pragmatical understanding of the truth. But Muslim philosophers have said no. And also some other philosophers who are not Muslims and follow, like many Christian philosophers who followed, Thomistic philosophy and Aristotelian philosophy, they have the same idea. So they say no. We keep the same understanding and the same definition of truth, and that is correspondence, but we try to understand what is the reality with which we have to correspond. So, in order to understand this, we have to know that the human mind is very, very sophisticated. When you look at human beings, first you may think human beings are not very sophisticated. But when science is developed, you realize how every organ of human being is very complex, very sophisticated. Even if someone, for example, wants to specialize in eyes, just any illness related to the eyes, maybe even one person, if dedicates all his life to this, cannot say, I understood everything about eyes. For sure they cannot understand everything. Even they may have more questions than ordinary people. Any part of human body is like this. But when you go to human soul, it's even more. Human mind is very, very complex. It's very, very complex. You know, Hegel, it's not in the book, but I just thought maybe it's good to refer to Hegel. You know, Hegel has an idea that he says everything that exists in the mind of God.
In the mind of God.
Mind, in the mind of God. He considers a mind for God. We don't accept God as mind, because mind is for ilm husudi, and for God there is no ilm husudi, and God has no parts. But he has this idea that everything exists in the mind of God, and anything known to mind of God exists. This is an exaggeration, but I want to say that mind of human being is so great that it's like, not really, and God forbids, I'm not saying really, but I'm saying it's like a kind of creator. Allah has given so much power to our mind that we can create. If Allah gave power to Isa alayhi salam to create a bird from a statue of a bird, إذ تخلق من الطين كهيئة الطير فتنفخ فيه فيكون طيرا بإذنه. Allah has also given all human beings some power of creating. Of course, we cannot be like Jesus. Unfortunately, we have not developed that side of us, although there is no limit. Even ordinary people can reach that point, as we have in Hadith Qudsi. Abdi ata'ni aj'alka mathali. My servant, obey me, I will make you like me. In the sense that Hadith itself explains, whenever I want something, I say, be, and there it is. I make you able to say, be, and there it is. Or, أنا حي لا أموت أجعلك حيا لا تموت. أنا غني لا أفتقر أجعلك غنيا لا تفتقر. So it's possible for us, but we haven't utilized it. Yeah? You know, when we die and go back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we are like just infants. Imagine if humanity was always dying in the age of infancy, you know. In our spirituality, we have never grown except awliyaullah. Okay? So, yes.
The verse, تبارك الله أحسن الخالقين.
Yeah.
It means Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives power to a human being, for example, to create something.
Yeah. Of course, Mufassirin normally say when it comes to human being, khalq is just transformation, not creating ex nihilo, I mean creating, you know, from nothing. But in my mind and your mind, maybe we have an experience of even creating ex nihilo, okay? But not in the real sense. Unfortunately, just it is in the mind. Although I say it's possible, but so far it's only in the mind. In heaven, yes. For example, in heaven you say, I want an ice cream. You say, kun fayakun, then ice cream is there. فيها ما اشتهت أنفسهم. Yeah, فيها ما تشتهيه الأنفس. So you don't need to go and buy unless you like. Sometimes you say, let us go and buy ice cream. Then there will be a shop and you can go and buy. Sometimes say, no, we just want ice cream. Then ice cream comes. So,
It's one meaning for creator there. And
pardon?
That's example. That's this example in paradise.
Yeah.
It's meaning of Khaliq, creator.
Yeah. So you have this ability that you act by your will.
Indeed.
Because this is the meaning of creatorship. That your will works. Our will doesn't work. We have to do and physically do something. You know, we have to take something which already exists, put it with something else, mix it or do something. But awliyaullah, they just will something and say be, there it is. Like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? Yes.
I think Allama Iqbal has said this, ए इंसान खुद को कर बुलंद इतनी कि हर तकदीर से पहले खुदा बंदे से पूछे तेरे रिज़ा क्या है. So he has done it. I mean, he
What
is
does it
popular.
mean?
Oh man, you lift yourself to such a state that before anything happens, God Himself will ask you,
What
what do you want? And you will get it.
It's from Dr. Muhammad Iqbal.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
maybe he means creating, maybe he means that you ask and God gives you.
Yes.
But this is more than God giving you.
You
This
can
is-
do it yourself.
Take yourself as high as possible that you say,
Aha.
do and it
And then it is.
happens.
Yes, it's possible. So, human mind is not like that, but it still has lots of power of creativity. In your mind, you can be very creative. Yes.
When in the Hadith Qudsi, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that I can make you like myself. Is that metaphorical?
No.
When he says like me, if we say it's not metaphorical.
Not like means, na'udhu billah, kind of God. Does أجعلك مثلي? It's مثلي.
Masal.
Means like an example,
It's the
a kind of reflection.
Mazhar-e sifat ilahi.
Aha, a kind of manifestation. Not ليس كمثلي شيء. So it doesn't أجعلك مثلي, أجعلك مثلي.
Masal.
Because you can have مثل for God, not مثل. For example, مثل نوره كمشكاة. مثل نوره. But you cannot say
Misal.
مثل نوره.
you have an example of a rebel.
Yes, yes. So, human mind has creativity. And I remember, one of my teachers of philosophy used to say, I don't know it's from him or from his teachers, that actually no one can become a good philosopher without mastering the way human mind works. It's very important that you have to learn how human mind works. Okay? And many good things that can happen if your mind works properly. Not only in matter of understanding what it is there, what's there or what is not there, even when it comes to moral issues, to spiritual issues, relation with people. It's very important how your mind works. Once I was talking about the necessity of taking knowledge from reliable sources. As Rasulullah said, فَاقْتَبِسُوهُ مِنْ أَهْلِهِ. Take knowledge from its people. Okay? Sometimes a person who is not qualified can give you false information. Puts in your mind some false ideas. You will be misguided. But sometimes that person doesn't need to put false information in you. That person can put wrong attitude in you. And when you check the items that he has told you, you don't realize there is a problem. But you don't realize that how over time that person has made you very pessimistic, very angry, very critical, very aggressive, very arrogant, you know. So if you check, everything is in the Risala, for example, everything is in Aqaid, no problem. But there is a hidden virus is coming from the soul of that person to you through these things that look normal. So you see two people, for example, they are saying Masail from Risala. All of them are using the same Risala. But the way they explain, one of them makes you, you know, very, for example, hopeful. One of them makes you very worried. One of them makes you think that you are, for example, to be aggressive. One of them makes you very humble. So, human mind can be functioning in many different ways. If your mind not only has good information, but has also good attitude. And attitude is very important. If you have good attitude, many problems either don't happen to you, or even if they happen, they would not be able to shaken you. You know, our maybe difference with some of the, you know, true mu'mineen is not that we know less necessarily. Sometimes we know, maybe, let's say, sometimes maybe we know more than them. It's not a matter of how much information is here. But they have an attitude that we don't have. And that attitude helps them to utilize what they know in the proper way. Okay? So, human mind is very important. And no matter how much you have studied, still there is something new to discover about human mind. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put so much in human beings that even if we study till end of our life, we will never understand all of it. So, let's go back to the issue of truth. One of the things that human mind does is that it has the ability of not only analyzing the external world, but can also analyze itself and take one level of itself as a kind of reality and then reflect on it and come up with another layer of understanding and then can reflect on that, and sometimes this can go to many, many different levels. For example, we see something exist. Okay. It's a reality. But mind can work on this and analyze it to many different layers. I write for you a sentence, and this is one of those sentences that you might be asked in the grave. If your angel is a philosopher, he will ask you in the grave. You have to be lucky that your angel asked you about philosophy than what you said, you know, or you did. It's easier, you know. Okay. So,
No pressure.
they say, if you understand this sentence, it helps you a lot in understanding many issues in philosophy. Al-mahiyatu taqarrarat. In the book says qurrarat, but I think taqarrarat is better. فأمكنت فاحتاجت فأوجبت فوجبت فأوجدت فوجدت تقررت فأمكنت فاحتاجت فأوجبت فوجبت فأوجدت فوجدت. So if you have, for example, here, say, a child, and that child exists. So you just see child exists. But our mind analyzes and realizes that this has gone to many different stages till it can exist. First, this child is a mahiyya. What is the mahiyya of child? It's a human being. Yes. So first you are dealing with a human being. Yeah? And this mahiyya has its definition. This is very important. Before we talk about existence of child or anything, we are to understand that this has a mahiyya. And each mahiyya has its own definition. A human being, a horse, an elephant, a bird, a flower, everything has its own mahiyya. And these mahiyat are distinct from each other. Do you accept or not? Is horse different from elephant or not? Yes. Even if we don't have any horse in the world and any elephant in the world, horse is different from elephant. Triangle is different from a square, even if we don't have any triangle or any square. Or if we just have one of them. It doesn't matter. These mahiyat are distinct from each other, even if they don't exist. The very first thing that we need is to recognize independence of mahiyat from each other. They are different things. We are not talking about existing mahiyat. We are talking about mahiyat in their own realm. Okay? And a few nights ago I was saying this somewhere, and then I was not sure whether I should have said it or not. So I say it now here also. Because sometimes we have to say things, but hopefully people understand. I said, when it comes to the definition of mahiyat, to that reality that mahiyat have in their own realm, this has nothing to do with their existence, with their creation, and even with their creator. Because creator is about their creation, and creation is about existence. Okay? Imagine, just imagine. You know, we can imagine impossible things. Yeah? This is one of the beauties of human mind, that even if something is impossible, still we can imagine and talk about it. But it is hamla awwali, of course, not hamla shaya. Yeah? We can talk about the concept of muhal. Yeah? If there was nothing in the world, if nothing was existing in the world, still a triangle was different from a square. Is it true or not?
Yes.
4 was different from 3
Indeed.
or 5. Even if nothing exists in the world. Don't say, you know, I cannot think about it because there are things that exist. I say your mind can think about this regardless. Mind has this ability that can even think about impossible things. When you reflect on these notions, you realize that these notions do not presuppose existence of themselves or existence of anything else. They are independent from each other. So, 3 is 3, 4 is 4, horse is horse. If we want to have a horse in the external world, we need creator. Creator. We need something to give existence to horse. But if we don't have a horse in the external world, that doesn't need anything. Because it's not a reality, it's just something in the mind as different territories that are just defined in our mind. Of course, our mind understands it from reflection on existing things. So, by reflecting on existing realities, we can develop notions that are independent from these realities. Okay? So, how did we come to develop the concept of horse? We first saw some horses, but then we drew out of them a notion that even now, if there is no horse in the world, that notion still is there. And that is how our mind separated Mahiyya from Wujud. Okay? So, this is why the philosophers say that Mahiyyat have their own taqarrur, their own, you can say their own standing, their own reality, but not external reality. You know, something like definition. They have their own definition, they have their own territory. Okay? So, first, you have to know a Mahiyya. Do you remember when we were talking about Asalatul Wujud? I told you this poem of Hajiya Sabzawari, إن الوجود عارض المهية تصورا واتحد هوية. Although in the real world we have existence, but our mind separates Mahiyya from Wujud and then actually thinks more about Mahiyya, and when something exists, our mind supposes that Wujud has belonged to Mahiyya. Because Mahiyya is more known to us than existence. So say, God gave existence to this Mahiyya. But this is the way we explain. Otherwise, there was nothing that God gave existence to it. God created this thing. Yeah? Not that there was Mahiyya. Anyway, Mahiyya has its own realm, its own definition, and they are independent from each other in their definition, in their concept. And as soon as we reflect on Mahiyya, we realize that they are mumkin, amkanat. Mumkin means they are contingent. Because when you look at any Mahiyya, you realize that neither existence nor non-existence is there, is presupposed. In horse, in elephant, in human beings, there is no inclusion of existence or non-existence in their Mahiyya. If existence was included, then we were never able to be non-existent. But we know there was a time that we didn't exist. If non-existence was included, then we had to be always non-existent. The fact that we may or may not exist shows that we have equal relation with existence and non-existence. Yeah? Therefore, philosophers say, Al-Mahiyyatu min haythu hiya laysat illa ليست إلا هي لا موجودة ولا معدومة. Mahiyya as such is nothing except itself, neither existing nor non-existing. A Mahiyya of human being, you cannot say it exists or doesn't exist. You cannot say it's, for example, a scholar or not, it's a student or not, it's a man or woman, it's a child or old or adult. None of these secondary things are included in Mahiyya. These are secondary things that can happen to Mahiyya. Okay? So, al-Mahiyyatu taqarrarat fa'amkanat. It's mumkin. It has equal relation with existence and non-existence. And therefore, when something has equal relation with existence and non-existence, it's muhtaj, it's needy. For its existence, it's needy. Even for its non-existence, it's needy. I told you before that not only our existence has cause, but also non-existence of us has cause. You know, we cannot even decide not to be here. We are really dependent. You cannot decide to be, you cannot decide not to be. Anything is decided by something other than us. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us, we will be here. If He doesn't want us, we are not here. And we said, illatul wujud, when there is cause for existence, this is the reason for existence, and non-existence of the cause for existence is the cause for non-existence. Yeah? Non-existence of the cause for existence is the cause for non-existence. Yeah? Adamul illah illatun lil adam. So, it's not that there must be something that makes us non-existent. Just the fact that what makes us existent is not there, is not complete, we don't exist. Okay? But anyway, our mind understands that we cannot explain ourselves why we exist or why we don't exist. There is nothing in our mahiyya that can explain why we exist or why we don't exist. Okay? So we are muhtaj. We are needy because of our imkan. And as you remember in Aqaid we said this, that because this ihtiyaj is a quality that comes because of our imkan, it never leaves us. We are always muhtaj, we are always needy. Even after we are created, we are mumkin and therefore we are needy. So we refuted the idea that we only need God at the beginning. We said no, we need God all the time. Yeah? Not only in hudus, but also in baqa. In continuity also we need God because we are still the same needy mahiyya. So, al-mahiyatu amkanat. You know, you can talk about this, 10 majlis about this sentence. It's very important. Al-mahiyatu taqarrarat fa'amkanat fahtajat. Okay. Then when you are muhtaj, something should come and determine whether you exist or you don't exist. And that is the illah, that's the cause. الشيء ما لم يجب لم يوجد. Before you become necessary, you don't exist. Either your existence has to become necessary or your non-existence has to become necessary. There must be ijab, there must be zarura. Okay?
Ijab or ijad?
Ijab. Ijad comes later. Before we reach ijad, first we have to become wajib. And before we have to become wajib, we have to be mujab. So ijab first. So something must necessitate our existence or non-existence. Because we are equal to existence and non-existence. Something must determine one of the two for us. Al-illatu tamma determines existence, and adamul illatu tamma, which can be either there is nothing at all or there is, but it's not complete. That determines non-existence. So after ihtiyaj is fa'ujibat. Then fawajabat. Something gives us necessity, then we become necessary. When we become necessary, then wujud is given to us, ijad. And after wujud is given to us, then we exist. That is wujud. So you see